Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
It feels like the 90s again. As I sit here, reminiscing about the past, I can't help but feel a sense of nostalgia that transports me back to a time when life seemed simpler, when the world was a playground of endless possibilities. It's as if the veil of time has lifted, and I find myself once again in the magical era of the 90s. The 90s were a time of vibrant energy, a decade that danced to the beat of its own drum. It was an era of neon colors, scrunchies, and baggy jeans, of Tamagotchis and Walkmans, of blockbuster nights and mixtapes. But it was more than just fashion and fads. It was a state of mind, a collective consciousness that resonated with an entire generation. What made the 90s truly special was its esoteric and metaphysical essence. It was a time when the metaphysical realm and the physical world seemed to intermingle, blurring the lines between reality and imagination. It was a time when the concept of reality was open to interpretation, when the notion of time was fluid, and when the impossible seemed possible. In the 90s, we embraced the mystical and the mysterious with open hearts and open minds. We believed in the power of dreams and the magic of intuition. We were drawn to the unknown, seeking answers beyond the tangible, and exploring the depths of our own souls. It was a time of self-discovery, of introspection, and tapping into our higher consciousness. The 90s were a time of connection, both with ourselves and with others. It was an era of meaningful conversations, deep connections, and authentic human interactions. We weren't constantly tethered to our devices, but rather present at the moment, fully engaged with the people and experiences around us. We valued genuine connections and cherished the beauty of human connection, without the distractions of social media and constant notifications. The 90s were also a time of creative expression, when art and music were potent conduits for our emotions and spirituality. It was an era of grunge, hip-hop, and electronic beats that spoke to our souls and echoed our innermost thoughts and feelings. We expressed ourselves through our personal style, the words we wrote, the art we created, and the music we listened to. We were in tune with our inner selves and expressed our individuality fearlessly. In retrospect, the 90s felt like a portal to a higher dimension, a time when the veil between the physical and the metaphysical was thin. It was a decade when we were more in tune with our intuition, when we followed our hearts and our souls without fear of judgment or societal constraints. It was a time when we believed in the limitless potential of the human spirit and the interconnectedness of all things. Today, as I reflect on the past, I can't help but notice the subtle echoes of the 90s in the present. There's a resurgence of interest in esoteric practices such as astrology, crystals, and energy healing. There's a growing awareness of the importance of mindfulness, self-care, and authentic human connection. There's a renewed appreciation for creativity, expression, and individuality. Perhaps it's not just a coincidence, but a reflection of the cyclical nature of time and consciousness. As the world continues to evolve, we find ourselves drawn back to the essence of the 90s, to that magical time when the metaphysical and the physical intertwined, when we embraced the unknown with curiosity and wonder, and when we lived authentically and connected deeply with ourselves and others. So let us embrace the spirit of the 90s once again, tapping into our intuition, expressing our creativity, and valuing meaningful connections. Let us remember the magic.
Holy shit, shut the fuck up.
So I've heard my grandfather mention this story a few times before, and it came up again the other day when we were talking about the subject of northern lights. We had it the night before. So here's how it plays out. Be my grandfather sometime in the early 90s. His daughter, my mother, calls needing a ride home from the neighboring town, 10-minute drive. He leaves to go pick her up in his car. He returns with her and pulls into the driveway. the car shuts off. An extremely bright light completely lit up their area around them, and a massive aura of light came down and started hovering above the car. My grandfather couldn't see it, but my grandmother was watching from their house window. White dots start appearing and moving everywhere inside the car, like an extremely saturated disco. From the way he described it, to me I felt like they were scanning the vehicle or something. Continued for about 5 minutes. The huge aura of light flew off into the sky again. The car is able to start again. Grandmother said it looked like a spaceship. I still can't comprehend this story every time he tells it. My mind is baffled by it. I can't believe my grandfather had a first witness account with something of the unknown. And he didn't even think it was. He thought it was northern lights by my grandmother seen otherwise. My mother can barely remember it. But she does remember bits. What does /x/ think?
Going to keep details on this vague as shit since the place is still owned by family, but I'd still like some input on what I might have experienced. First time posting here, so excuse me if I'm doing Greentext wrong. Be young teen, late 90s. Winter getaway trip in northern Canada. Uncle's hunting cabin with a small lake right next to it. Idyllic as F. Middle of the afternoon. Overcast, but no rain or snow that day. Dad chopping wood on the shoreline. Cousins and uncle are around in the woods and shooting at beer bottles. Was kind of a coward back then who didn't like guns. Just happy being in the wilderness, decided to try ice fishing for the first time. The lake is within sight of my family, so they didn't care if I went solo and the ice was thick enough to stand on with a couple centimeters of powdered snow. Wander out and bust a hole in the ice. Takes a while because I was a weak kid back then. Sitting on the tackle box because I didn't want to go back to the cabin for a stool and start fishing with pieces of stale sandwich ham for bait. Keep hearing a quiet slapping noise by where I'm sitting while getting my line ready, thinking it's just water lapping at the ice underneath me. See something white-gray pass by the hole a few times. Probably just trout. The line bobs every few minutes, and whenever I pull it out, the ham is gone. Sat there in the cold for an hour. Don't land a single fish. Get really bored and uncomfortable because I'm hunched on a tackle box. Scrape some of the snow off the ice to see if I can spot any fish. See bottoms of bare feet on the other side of the ice for a couple seconds before they step away from the cleared patch. WTF. Looked like another person walking upside down under the ice. Yell for my family to come over, but they'd gone into the cabin already and don't hear me. More curious than scared for some reason. Dumb kid brain thinks that someone is messing with me. Took off one of my coats and use it to sweep more snow away. Find the feet again, and they step away under snow-covered ice, just like before. Could see legs too, but not much else. Water is too dark, and ice is too thick to see anything above the knee. Keep walking forward with the coat, using it kind of like a broom to sweep snow away in a path. Every time I find the feet, they move further away from the shoreline, toward the middle of the lake. Followed the feet for another 10 meters, and suddenly heard and felt a deep, creaking, cracking sound. Realize ice is a lot thinner here than by the shore. 180 in power walk back to my gear, keeping as far away from the fishing hole as I can. While retreating back to shore, I could hear dim slapping noise following me the entire way back. Yelled at my family for leaving me alone when I get back to the cabin. Dad and uncle said could see me through the cabin window just fine. Tell them about what I saw. Cousins all think I'm full of shit and just trying to get back at them for leaving me alone, and they start telling ghost stories for the rest of the night to freak me out more. Didn't go near the lake for the rest of the trip. I've heard some Inuit stories of monsters pulling kids under the ice, but we weren't that far north, and this thing had ample opportunity to reach up through the hole to get me, though maybe it was content to eat my ham instead.
I think I remember an alien abduction. Hey/X/. I am but a humble tourist on this board, but I thought I'd get your input on something. Tonight, my girlfriend and I were talking about her father and how he claims to have had an abduction experience in the 90s. We've spoken about this before, but as we were talking, I recalled a memory I haven't thought about in a long time. I had always written this off as sleep paralysis, as when I was a teenager. I had sleep paralysis somewhat often, but the more I think about it now, the more I am shaken. Anyway, one night, I fell asleep on the couch downstairs. And now that I'm thinking about it, even sleeping downstairs was out of the ordinary for me, and had a spell of what I've always thought was sleep paralysis, albeit the most vivid I ever experienced. I remember waking up abruptly, unable to move, and seeing a white light. I mean blinding white, like I've never seen before or since, even in dreams, descending slowly out the window. I remember being pulled off the couch, across the floor, to the center of the room, and as I watched it descend, I remember my last thought being, "Oh no, not again." When I awoke, I remember jumping out of the couch and running into the kitchen to look at the time before laying back on the couch. An aside, I've also had a pathological fear of depictions of aliens my whole life. Particularly when I was younger, the sight would set my heart racing, and I'd even shake occasionally. I would always immediately avert my eyes. It terrified me. I have always had a fascination with UFOs and aliens, which may be another reason I always wrote it off as sleep paralysis. But the more I think about it tonight, the more unnerved I am. Honestly, if I was abducted, I don't think I would want to remember, which maybe is why I pushed this memory to the side whenever it had come to my mind. So what does /X/ think? Am I overreacting? Was it sleep paralysis? Like I said, I'd get it often, so I guess I just hope it was. If not, should I get hypnotic regression or something?
I'm an old friend, so here's the green text. Be me. 1990s, 19 years old. Go to a lake with the boys. It's me, 4 guys, and 2 girls. Sisters. The important one is Ruby. It's kind of a setup date for me and Ruby, so I was with her the entire night, even spending a majority of the night alone with her. As soon as we started talking, she is acting a little distant. She doesn't want to take the drink I got for her. Also tells me she doesn't like touching people. Hangout continues through the night until one of our friends has to leave for work. The friend has lost his keys, and we proceed to look for them for 2 hours. It was pretty important he got home that night, so we were all looking for his keys, including the girls. After the 2 hours of looking, we overhear the 2 girls whispering to each other. We immediately go check to see what's up. At this point, the whole group is working together to look for the keys, so we all confront them about what they were talking about. The sister asks Ruby if she wants to try it. Ruby reluctantly agrees. Ruby asks to touch the guy's hand, and she asks him to think about his keys, not where he last left his keys, rather just think about the material, how they function, how they look. After a moment of silence, she tells me to move away from where I'm sitting on the cooler. I get up, and she immediately reaches in without looking and grabs the keys from the cooler. Keep in mind, this is in the 90s before cell phones, and I was with Ruby the entire night. If they had some sort of plan to hide the keys, they would have had to plan the entire thing before even going to the lake, but still I was pretty skeptical and just assumed somehow they were able to trick us all. It gets crazy after this, though. I'll have to continue it in a reply, though. Basically, I met her again after like 6 years and asked her what happened. Here is the continuation. Be me like 6 years later. Randomly meet this girl at a party without the same friend group. I'm the only one at the party other than her that was at the lake event. I politely asked her basically, "How did you trick me?" After explaining to her, I have a curiosity for supernatural things like that. She tells me she doesn't want to talk about it, and she doesn't really understand it herself. I'm not trying to be a dick and incur the wrath of a psychic, so I don't press for any more information. The people at the party continue to pry for info. Bro S. She eventually says she will prove her abilities by telling you something you've never told anyone. She does this to 2 guys, one after the other. They volunteered. The first volunteer just immediately runs out of the room. He's hollering and holding his head and shit. It was pretty convincing. The next guy volunteers after that. She does it to him too, He just starts crying after a moment of silence. Full-on sobbing, real actual tears and hiding his face. Bruz, before that I was going to try it myself just to see what would happen. But after seeing those two guys, I got way too spooked to continue. This experience has stuck with me for years, and ever since then I'm not only curious about psychic phenomenon, but I fully believe in it. Does anyone else have any paranormal experiences like this? Or even just reputable studies on psychics? I've only read the Gateway Experience stuff.
I've posted this elsewhere on the internet, but never here, and it's only recently they seem possibly connected. I'm also on mobile, so bear with me. Be me in small-town Michigan in the 90s. Older brother starts riding the bus to school, and he waits at the end of our long driveway. One day he tells Dad a large triangle is watching him from over the trees. It's nothing. JPEG. He keeps saying it and would run in crying and miss the bus. Dad waits with him one morning. Dad starts driving him to school for a while, but I don't remember hearing much more. Some time goes by and a tiny town freaks out one night as a huge black triangle is seen flying over the bay by hundreds of people, including cops. Makes a local newspaper. Mom saves clipping and keeps it near the fireplace in a special box with important stuff, not easily mistaken for burning paper. We would reference the article once in a while for a few years. Brother and the rest of the family remember this happening, and the article, and even family friends remember seeing it and have copies of it. Fast forward. Still quite young. Nice summer day hanging out at home with Mom. Mom is sweet but tough. Experienced backpacker and EMT, does not scare easily. Folding laundry in the living room while watching old TV shows. Out of nowhere, a shiny, new-looking 50s-style black car rips into the driveway while not making much noise. We live down a dirt road and cars don't stay that clean getting to us. Doors both open and tall men wearing black step out and immediately make for the front door. Mom freezes for half a second and looks terrified like she sees a bear. Scoops me up in a flurry and rips me around the corner and through the kitchen and into the back bathroom no one used. Laundry baskets and random shit block the bathroom door, but she flings it all aside and stuffs us in. Back bathroom is opposite the back door with a garage attached. She's holding my mouth shut and tears and spit run from her face as we watch the door and listen. Never seen her so utterly terrified before or since. I've seen her react to a tornado and calmly get us to safety. The rest of the day is blank to me. Days of me asking and getting no answers turn into months. She eventually tells me she doesn't remember anything like that. Brother and Dad were out in town that day. Eventually hear about men in black sightings and start to think this may have been a sighting. Asked to see the UFO article thinking it might be connected. Mom says sure and goes to get it. It's gone.webm. No one can find the thing. Ask family friends. Yeah, let me grab it. What the hell, it's not here. No one has an article. The newspaper has no copy or record of it anywhere, not even online. I posted this on Reddit a while back. Cringe, I know. But I got something interesting. Someone posted about the black triangle and how it would follow them and watch them from just above the trees. The time frame was exact, and they described the exact area as well. There's no doubt in my mind this person saw this thing and lived no more than 5 miles from me. I respond to the post frantically asking for any info. Person deletes their account. I plan on asking Mom again soon about that summer day. I realized why I haven't asked in a few years. I'm horrified of the thought of her remembering and confirming it happened. What the fuck would I do then? This could all be weird memories and dreams getting mixed up for sure. I hope it is. I have at least one more story to share, but I don't feel it's as connected. Please share your stories as well. OK/X/ you know that darkness you can only get out in the woods? It's that kind that seems to prod and test you. This happened a couple times at the same house mentioned above. Now in high school and stay up after parents go to bed to watch Adult Swim. Parents have a nice yard with a large pond out front and big windows in the living room. I usually have the blinds closed at night because the darkness there gets to me, but have them open tonight. Eating peanut butter and watching TV when I get the feeling of being watched from outside. Rotate on the sofa to get a stealthy look outside but don't see anything but black at first. Eyes adjust a little more and can make out where the pond is. It's dark. Eyes lock onto something I can't quite see just across the pond. slowly make out a darker silhouette in blackness moving slightly. A feeling of shocking fear keeps me from looking away. Its head turns towards me and two dull yellow eyes stare into mine. It stops moving completely for some time. Eyes lift off the ground as the shape grows taller. It's hard to judge height from this distance, but tall for sure. Shape moves towards the road without losing eye contact, and I cannot pull my eyes away from it. It disappears into the brush, and I scurry to my bedroom with blinds shut on my window. Never lost the feeling something was watching me from just the other side of the wall outside. Living in a really small apartment my family built on their property just after college. Cute 3-room place right at the edge of the woods with lots of windows to see the deer. One night after weed and vidya, pass out but wake up sometime really late. Not sure what woke me up and everything is dark. Sudden light shines in through closed curtains right next to bed. Think about who is shining the flashlight in my window this late. Second light shines in from a different angle and now I'm too freaked out to check. Angle of the lights is really steep and high off the ground. The lights turn green and slowly blue. Now I'm holding my breath hoping it doesn't know I'm here. Lights move rapidly for a few seconds before fading away. Everything gets dark and very quiet. A sudden scream from the woods makes me jump and little and squeeze my blanket like a coward. Sounds like a dying rabbit to me. Ask parents if they saw anything last night. They say no, but the dogs were spooked and pissed everywhere in the kitchen.
Be me, 12. Have a friend whose mother is really fucked up. Always angry, mean, never cared about what he did with his time. She always seemed to resent him. Learned years later that she was a heavy drug addict. They live in a small townhouse in a shitty part of town. Go to their house one afternoon, playing Super Nintendo in the living room. His mom finally gets out of bed and comes out of her room. She always slept in really late. Talking on the cordless phone, smoking a cigarette. I barely catch a small part of her conversation where she seems to say, "I'll leave it unlocked." She comes into the living room looking worse than usual, like she'd been crying. She is surprised to see me, says, "You didn't tell me Anon was here." Weird because she normally didn't give a shit about whether he had friends over. He ignores her, continues playing Nintendo. She goes into the kitchen, grabs her purse and returns to the living room. "I have to run out for a bit, you okay?" I've never heard her ask him that before. He ignores her, playing Nintendo. She comes over and kisses him on the head. "I love you, okay?" "I love you very much." He looks at her side-eyed. "Okay, what?" "Anon has to go home. I mean right now, okay? Anon, you have to go now." She walks to the front door and leaves. My friend tells me I don't have to leave. Tells me she's just being a witch, playing Nintendo. I'm a little bored. I get up and begin sort of aimlessly poking around the living room, checking out wall hangings, a portrait of my friend and his mom. Walk over to the front door and notice that it's unlocked. Without really thinking about it, I lock the door. Bored of being bored, so I return to sit with my friend to play Nintendo. We're playing. Suddenly, the door handle starts jangling. It gets more intense, like someone is really hauling on the door trying to open it. My friend looks at me scared. We rush to the front window. Some guy is reefing on the door with all his might trying to open it. We step back before he sees us. We stare at the door, terrified. The guy is giving everything he has trying to get inside. My friend starts crying. Oh my God, he's going to break the door. Noise stops, and the door is silent again. Run to the window. Nobody is there anymore. We look at each other horrified. My eyes dart to the kitchen, the back door. Run as fast as I can to the back door and lock it. Just then I can see the shadowy silhouette of somebody at the back door. Door handle jangles. I step back absolutely petrified. The dude kicks the door and swears before running off. Through the back window I can see him run away. We go to call the police. The cordless phone is nowhere to be found.
I have a memory of going to a place that apparently doesn't exist. My mom remembers this and brings it up sometimes herself, unprompted, but I remember it vividly in many ways. I am convinced that this place must exist or have existed once, but maybe doesn't anymore. Like it closed down pre-mass internet era, and so there isn't much info about it. Since I live in a remote area of Florida that was even more remote back in the 1990s when this memory occurred, it makes sense that it is hard to learn about it. Here is literally all I know. It existed somewhere in Pick-related Hernando County, Florida. The memories of going there happened at least twice between 1996 to 1998, maybe even 1997 as the last visit. We would drive about 30 or 35 minutes to get there. It felt about as far away from the Pasco Pinellas area as a trip to Busch Gardens or anything in Tampa, but you'd go away from the city to get to it. Tons of nonsensically giant hills on the road to this place, which would end in a dead end that looked like a misty cliff. Very abnormal for Florida, which was literally the place that I remember, but can't find info about. It's a zoo, or animal sanctuary. I distinctly remember the musty little room you check in and pay for your day pass, and the little arcade machine in the corner next to the bathrooms. First place I saw a baboon. Remember there being an impressive amount of animals, but I don't remember much of the other animals I saw there. Would walk around the entire place and see the animals in their areas. Went once with Mom and loved it. Ended up going back with a friend from preschool and his mom. So that's the memory. And here's the mystery. Literally no information about a zoo or animal sanctuary existing in that region, despite growing up here my whole life. No other direction to go where that place could have been possible with all its hills and eerie mists. West is the Gulf of Mexico, south is the populous cities and mainstream zoos that everyone knows. East is just farms and dinosaur world. Despite navigating there twice in the pre-internet era for our household, my mom doesn't remember what the place was called or how to get there. It had to be a real place. It was too mundane, and nothing odd or weird happened. It wasn't scary or ominous, but really pretty friendly, if not a bit liminal, in that there were rarely other guests there. It was like a little secret place, but the animals they had here were exotic enough to not just be some little offhand farm. There has to be some information in this world about it. Or maybe this is an esoteric Mandela-style place that existed at some point in an old reality for me and my mom, but now doesn't. I don't know the friend, whose name was Mitchell, anymore who we went there with. I just remember it was a kid I met in preschool who I ended up not going to elementary school with, which is why the memory is so specifically dated to 1996 to 1998, when I knew that particular kid. But that was my second time going when I went with him, so we were showing it to someone after our initial discovery. Florida bros, or people who are good at digging up what was where, help me find the mystery zoo from my memories, or help me confirm once and for all that it doesn't exist in this timeline. And to be clear, because the description might be confusing, this zoo wasn't indoor, just the little building for check-in. Then you go out a door in the back and it's walkways and trails in an outdoor environment where you can walk up to animal enclosures and exhibits, fresh air, etc. I realized rereading it that it sounds like some kind of weird indoor zoo, which it very much was not.
Is your memory good for all other things around that time period? Also, what time of day did you go? We can get fog here in Tampa in the mornings, usually in fall-winter.
Yeah, I have good memories from that period. This friend was the same one who got me into SNES, N64 and shit in 1997, and I remember it was a novelty to find a zoo that wasn't in Tampa-Hillsboro because everybody knew Busch Gardens and Lowry Park. This was like an indie version up in the rural boonies.
Well, it doesn't sound implausible that there'd be some kind of private zoo up there. The thing probably closed when the owners died or couldn't afford feeding them anymore. Your memory may be romanticizing it a bit.
Nobody has any memory of this place existing or has any idea what I'm talking about when I mention it. I don't know why we knew about it either. The mystery comes up at least once a year since I was like 10, and I remembered it suddenly and asked my mom. That was 20 years ago. I just want to know what or where geographically such a strange place was. The hills on the way there were the weirdest part. I'm used to flat Florida land with no terrain in the Tampa Bay area.
Any redneck bros have any stories? I'll start with a short one. Be teenage me in the 1990s. Kiowa Indian in Oklahoma. Small town, everyone knows each other. Everyone in town, Indian or not, is scared of my family. There's a lot of us and we're known to defend our own. After powwow one night, specifically Sundance for healing purposes. Community has been sick lately and we can't find the cause. It has been happening over the course of about 2 months. Dad, second in command in tribe, tells us to check out the water supply after powwow because that's what the leaders think the problem is. Walking in the woods with 2 older brothers. Come across the end of the water pipeline. Giant nest there. Like sticks and cloth just gathered like a crow's nest. Shiny objects. Nothing around to be in the nest, but we're not retarded, so we figure it's nearby. Stick together, but look around. Eventually, a big, skinny, bear-shaped thing emerges from other trees and we all whip around to see it. My brothers tackle it, no balls. They're holding it for me to beat up, punch in nose and get a good look at it. Weird, patchy brown skin, not emaciated, just thin. Would say it was a bear, except it didn't have fur. It was like weird, patchy human hair. Weird cracking noises as I keep punching. You were probably like, yeah, that's its bones, dumbass. I have punched very many people in my life and broken a few bones, and the texture was just odd. Like plexiglass, if it was easier to break, breaks in sheets. Left thing twitching on ground with one brother to guard it as me and other brother dismantle nest. Really weirdly hoarded objects like entire woven blankets and some copal incense. Copal incense is really important to us during powwows, etc., by the way, so it was weird that it had it as well. After destroying nest, we walk back to main res area and come back with Dad and few elders. The creature is gone. No resolution. Still don't know what it was. It was playing dead. My face when...
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.